Hey guys, as I film this, WWE Clash of Champions 2020 is happening right now. I'm going to do a new format a little bit to help myself save on time on the editing and uploading process. I'm just going to share my thoughts after each match as they happen. Right now, Apollo Crews is in the ring getting ready for his match, and this idea didn't occur to me until the Asuka-Zelina Vega match. First match was on the kickoff show, Cesaro Nakamura taking on the Lucha House Party for the SmackDown Tag Team Championships. Honestly, I did not see this. The Reds were playing. They're in the middle of a postseason run now starting, I guess. They clinched on Friday night, so I was watching the finale against the Twins in this series, and they won, so I missed the kickoff show match because the game went into extra innings. But in the end, Cesaro Nakamura got the win over the Lucha House Party. That's the only part I did see. After that, it was Sami Zayn versus Jeff Hardy versus AJ Styles for the Intercontinental Championship match, or for the Intercontinental title, in a ladder match. This was a phenomenal ladder match. Great way to kick off the show. Lots of high spots. Jeff Hardy did his WrestleMania 16 senton off the top of the ladder onto, I believe it was Sami Zayn, who was laid out on the ladder. Crazy spot where Jeff Hardy was like hanging onto the ladder and Sami Zayn dumped him, and Jeff Hardy was like trying to, I guess, lay himself horizontally on the ladder, but I don't know if it was a botch spot or what. Jeff Hardy fell out of the ring with the ladder like clapping on him. Very painful looking spot. And then in the end, this was Sami Zayn came off looking like a genius here. So Jeff Hardy has gauges in his ears. He didn't have him in for the match, obviously, but Sami Zayn handcuffed Jeff Hardy's earlobe to the ladder outside of the ring, and then he handcuffed himself to AJ Styles. Styles was like beating on him and like carrying him up the ladder, and then Jeff Hardy came in the ring with the ladder handcuffed to his ear. He's beaten AJ Styles with the ladder, while Sami Zayn, on top of AJ Styles' shoulders still, uncuffs himself after he spits out a key from his mouth, uncuffs himself from AJ Styles, cuffs Styles to the ladder, climbs up the ladder, grabs both belts, so Sami Zayn is your Intercontinental Champion. Phenomenal way to start the show. After that, we had Asuka versus Zelina Vega for the Raw Women's title. It was an okay match. Vega showing she can go with one of the best wrestlers on our women's roster today. But it was no match. Asuka made her submit for the win, and she is still your Raw Women's title, but it does not look like this feud is over. There was some post-match antics between the two, so I could definitely see this feud continuing. And as I turn this clip of the video off, it looks like Apollo Crews is getting ready to take on Bobby Lashley for the United States Championship. Alright guys, so the match just wrapped up. Bobby Lashley retained the United States Championship over Apollo Crews. He made Crews tap out to the full Nelson. It was an okay match. Nothing really stood out about it. It's just another bout in the never-ending feud between Apollo Crews and the Hurt Business. Don't get me wrong, I love the Hurt Business. MVP, Shelton Benjamin, Bobby Lashley, now Cedric Alexander. Killer faction. I really hope WWE straps a rocket to this group and sends them to the moon. But as far as this rivalry between Apollo Crews and his crew of Ricochet and Ali, I'm hoping they part ways and start something else now. Alright guys, so the Street Profits just beat Andrade and Garza to retain the Raw Tag Team Championships. It was a very solid match until the end. It looked like a botched 3 count by the referee. It looked like there's some confusion on the wrestlers in the ring. So yeah, the ending kind of messed with that finish. So in what could have been like a blow-off match to this rivalry, looks like there might be a rematch on Raw because there wasn't really a definitive winner due to that botched 3 count by the ref. As I said, it was a good match up until that botch. Our promo for the WWE Draft starts October 9th on SmackDown, continues on the 12th on Monday Night Raw. Can't say I'm looking forward to this. I do not like the brand extension. I have not liked it since they first implemented it in 2002. But yeah, so a draft is going to be coming up soon, and it's going to be interesting to see what they do with the rosters. In my opinion, SmackDown has been better than Raw, so they might need to take some of those top stars on SmackDown, plug them into Raw, help Raw get better storylines going, and possibly some better viewership. So after that WWE Draft promo, R-Truth just beat Drew Gulak to become the 24/7 champion for the 1,000th time at this point. The next match on the card was Bayley supposed to defending that SmackDown Women's Championship against, I think, Nikki Cross. They said Cross couldn't compete, so she had an open challenge. Raw Women's Champion Asuka answers that challenge, and you think you're going to get maybe a double champ here. Does not happen. Bayley ends the match after she hits Asuka with a steel chair, so the match ends in disqualification. So Bayley is still the SmackDown Women's title, or the SmackDown Women's Champ. After that, Sasha Banks came back, had a neck brace, was attacking Bayley with the chair. And then eventually Bailey got the upper hand, was about to use a kendo stick, but then Sasha would get the upper hand. So it looks like this rivalry going forward is going to be Sasha versus Bailey. And Bailey was still selling the neck injury, wearing that neck brace. Next pay-per-view looks like we're finally going to get Banks versus Bailey for the SmackDown Women's title. Randy Orton versus Drew McIntyre for the WWE Championship in an ambulance match was next. And it was the best match on the card so far, in my opinion. A lot of action. And the main story here was Orton getting his comeuppance for taking out all those legends earlier in the summer. So it starts out, Big Show appeared, chokeslammed Randy Orton through the announce table. They fought up to the ambulance, and there was a comical use of a red steel chair with a white ambulance cross on it that happened to be in the ambulance. I know WWE likes to theme these weapons around the type of match stipulation they're having, but that chair is a little ridiculous in my opinion. They eventually fought their way back toward the front of the ambulance, and McIntyre would go for a Claymore kick. He would miss and just kick the door of the ambulance right off of it, showing an empty front seat in the ambulance. After that, they would fight backstage, and then McIntyre, it was pretty funny, he threw those posts with the retractable ropes, he threw one of those posts out of the way, and actually landed straight up standing, which is pretty funny. They're by a catering table. Christian appears. He helps McIntyre out by throwing Orton into the food table. After that, they make their way back out to the main arena right by the ambulance, and Orton just whiplashes McIntyre onto the ambulance windshield, which cracks, and then McIntyre's back is bleeding. Eventually, they fight their way up onto the top of the ambulance, and then Orton stomps on McIntyre's fingers, causing him to fall off. And then from behind Orton, Shawn Michaels appears, hits him with Sweet Chin Music, and pushes him off the ambulance. This gives McIntyre the upper hand. Orton would later RKO McIntyre onto the floor, not enough to keep McIntyre down. McIntyre escapes the ambulance attempt by Orton by giving him a poke to the eye, and then he claymores Orton, and when he throws Orton to the back of the ambulance instead of closing the door, he hits him with the punt. Kind of comes back full circle for Randy Orton. Then he closes the door, he wins the match, he's still your WWE Champion, and then the ambulance is driven off by none other than the Nature Boy, Ric Flair. So all the legends that Orton took out during the summer that built up to this match came back to help McIntyre win. Not really sure how I feel about that, because it took Christian, Big Show, and Shawn Michaels all assisting Drew McIntyre in essence to help McIntyre win. Not saying it makes McIntyre look weak by any means at all, but it does kind of take away from the value of his win. However, with McIntyre getting a win over Randy Orton and then all the legends getting involved, I'd say this is probably the end of the rivalry between McIntyre and Orton, and we should be getting, in what I believe, be Keith Lee versus Drew McIntyre for the WWE Championship coming up next. Alright guys, the main event just wrapped up. Jey Uso challenging his cousin Roman Reigns for the Universal Championship, and I have to say this was the best match of the night. Storytelling in it was incredible. Off the charts performance by Roman Reigns, Paul Heyman, and Jey Uso. So the match starts out with Reigns talking trash, saying he's the head of the table, he's the tribal chief. He gives Uso a big right hand, which Uso sold really, really well. Reigns half-heartedly gets back in the ring to break up the count, and the ref's like, "What are you doing?" And Paul Heyman says, "He's breaking the count." And then Roman Reigns says, "I'll do whatever I want." I mean, he's perfected this heel role. He is playing it to a T. It's great to see. Uso would later hit Simone drop on Reigns, but Reigns would immediately strike back with a Superman punch, and Uso would give a big knife-edge shot to Roman Reigns, but didn't even phase him. Reigns floors Uso again. Uso would then have a nice little hope spot. You'd think he's going to win, but then Reigns would counter that with a Rough Rider of all moves. Uso would counter a spear into a roll-up, a super kick, and a splash, but when Reigns kicked out of the pin, he actually low blows Uso, and then the commentators are saying, "Oh, maybe that was incidental," but then it shows Roman Reigns' face. He's smiling at the fact that he did it. So this heel turn Roman Reigns is in full force at this point. Reigns spears Uso and tells him, "Call me the tribal chief, call me the head of the table," and he can end this. He'll pin him and end the match. Uso refuses, so Reigns hits him with another spear, basically telling him the same thing. Holds his face up to a camera, says, "This is my camera, my WWE. I run the yard. I feed the people at the table. You know, your kids are seeing this. My nieces and nephews are seeing this. Our families are seeing this." So Uso says no, he's not going to. Jimmy Uso comes down the ring limping. He's got a towel. He tells Jay he's going to throw in the towel. Jay's saying don't do it. Reigns is telling him to do it and calling the tribal chief. Jimmy looks completely torn at this point. He doesn't want to throw in the towel, but at the same time, he starts seeing his brother get destroyed here. Eventually, Reigns gets back on top of Jay, giving him forearm shots, punches to the face, and it's too much for Jimmy, so he throws in the towel. Reigns doesn't stop, so Jimmy throws himself on top of Jay to take the blows. Eventually, the ref pulls Reigns off of him, and he declares him the winner as Paul Heyman gives Roman Reigns a lay to wear. He is the tribal chief. And yeah, so that's how the match ends. Jey Uso loses to Roman Reigns. Reigns retains the Universal title. And I loved it. The storytelling in here was phenomenal. The pacing of the match was really good. It started out slow, but picked up toward the end. And the story they told of Uso not giving up and Reigns just being a dominant, total badass heel kind of reminded me of the early days of The Rock's first heel turn in late 97, early 98. The way that played out. I was getting those kind of vibes from Roman Reigns, and it's great to see. And I don't think this feud's over. It looks like Jimmy and Jay and Roman Reigns are going to be another family feud. Universal title match coming up the next pay-per-view possibly, and I think The Fiend is going to be waiting for Roman Reigns once this feud is over. And that's all I got for you. If you like this video, feel free to get a thumbs up, leave a comment, subscribe to the channel, check out my website, cincyfanzone.blogspot.com, and give me a follow on Twitter and on Instagram. Links to both of those are in the description below, and those handles are at Cincy Fan Zone. And as always, guys, thanks for watching.